After 18 months of building a multi-agent system that runs my entire content pipeline, my CRM, and a cannabis e-commerce backend, I've burned thousands of dollars across Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini. And I'm going to tell you something most YouTubers won't. There is no winner. There's only the right tool for the right job. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which model to reach for when you're actually shipping code, not just demoing it. Most developers pick an AI model the same way they pick a Netflix show, whatever everyone's talking about that week. ChatGPT had its moment, then Claude 3.5 Sonnet dropped, and developer Twitter switched overnight. Then Gemini 2.0 came out and everyone switched again. Here's the problem with that approach. You're not just picking a chatbot, you're picking a coding partner that touches your code base, your data, your customers. Pick wrong and you're rewriting your auth layer at 2 a.m. because the model hallucinated an API that doesn't exist. I'm Eugene. I run a multi-agent system in production, and I'm going to walk you through what actually matters when you're deciding which model to trust with real work. Every comparison video you've watched runs the same boring tests. Write a Python function, reverse a string, solve a riddle. None of that tells you anything useful because the moment you stop benchmarking and start building, the model's personality matters more than its raw IQ. I've shipped real systems with all three. Alme has Claude orchestrating, Sonnet for content generation, Gemini summarizing analytics, and ChatGPT handling certain image tasks where it still leads. So instead of synthetic benchmarks, I'm going to show you the 4 dimensions that actually decide which model survives in production. Code quality on real code bases, context handling when your project is 200 files deep, tool use and agentic behavior, and the part nobody talks about, how each model fails because they all fail. The question is whether the failure mode is recoverable or catastrophic. Let me be specific. When I'm building inside Local AI Hub, which is a Next.js 15 app with about 40,000 lines of TypeScript. Claude Sonnet 4.6 wins this dimension by a wider margin than any benchmark suggests. Not because it writes prettier code, because it respects the conventions already in my code base. If I've got a custom hook pattern, Claude follows it. If I'm using a specific error handling style, Claude matches it. Like ChatGPT, even GPT-5 tends to write what I call island code. Functionally correct, but stylistically disconnected from everything around it. You can spot ChatGPT written code in a PR review without reading the commit message. Gemini 2.5 Pro has the opposite problem. It writes confidently and cleanly, but it hallucinates APIs more than the other two. I've watched Gemini invent a Stripe webhook helper that doesn't exist, complete with type signatures that look real, and the code compiled, it just didn't work because the function it called wasn't in the SDK. So, for one-off scripts, that's fine. Yeah, for production code touching payments, it's terrifying. And it's the lesson here isn't that Gemini is bad at code. It's that Gemini is optimized for first draft speed, not for accuracy in stable production code bases. Here's where the gap gets dramatic. Claude Opus 4.7 ships with a 1 million token context window now. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this changed how I work. I can drop my entire Alme orchestration layer into a single conversation and ask architectural questions that span 50 files. The model holds it all. It refers back to specific function signatures from earlier in the conversation. It catches inconsistencies between files you haven't even mentioned in your current question. Gemini matches that 1 million token window on paper, and on long documents, it actually performs well. So where it falls apart is multi-turn coding sessions. After about turn 15 in a real coding conversation, Gemini starts losing track of decisions you made earlier. It'll suggest a refactor that contradicts a constraint you established 20 minutes ago. ChatGPT, even with its memory features, has the smallest practical context. Long conversations there feel like talking to someone with mild amnesia. They remember the gist, not the specifics. For agentic workflows where the model needs to reason over an entire code base, Claude is the only one I trust right now. This is the dimension that matters most for what I'm building. And it's the one most reviewers ignore. When you give Claude a set of tools, file editing, bash, web search, it uses them surgically, it plans, it reads before writing, it verifies its own changes. I've watched Claude run a 40-step debugging session inside Claude Code, calling tools in the right order without being told. The agentic behavior is genuinely different from the other two. ChatGPT in agent mode is faster, but more chaotic. It runs more tool calls than necessary. It'll reread files it just read because it forgot. The output usually works, but the path to get there is messy. Gemini's agentic mode is improving, especially with the Vertex AI integration, but it's still a generation behind on tool sequencing. Where Gemini does win is multimodal tool use. If your agent needs to look at a screenshot, parse a PDF with images, and reason about a chart, Gemini handles that pipeline more naturally than the other two. So my actual production setup uses Claude for orchestration, Gemini for vision-heavy subtasks, and ChatGPT mostly for image generation, where DALL-E still has an edge, right, for certain styles. Every model fails. The question is whether you can recover. Claude's failure mode is over-cautioned. It'll sometimes refuse benign requests, ask for confirmation when none is needed, or add safety guardrails to code that doesn't need them. Annoying, but recoverable. You just rephrase or push back. Gemini's failure mode is confident hallucination. It'll invent functions, parameters, even entire libraries. Just such a conviction, just this touching about subtraction that you'll trust the output until you run it. This is the most dangerous failure mode of the three because the cost of catching it falls entirely on you. ChatGPT's failure mode is shallow reasoning under pressure. On simple tasks, it's excellent. On tasks that require holding multiple constraints in mind, say refactoring a function while preserving an external API contract, while updating the tests, while not breaking three downstream callers, it'll quietly drop one of the constraints and not tell you. You'll find out in code review or worse in production. Here's my real world setup after 18 months of testing. For greenfield architecture and complex refactors, Claude Opus 4.7. The 1 million token context plus the reasoning quality is unmatched for this work. For day-to-day feature building inside a known code base, Claude Sonnet 4.6. Faster, cheaper, and a 90 spot ion of the qualities to you. But for bulk content generation across my pipeline, Gemini 2.5 Flash via Vertex. Like the cost per million tokens is significantly lower, and the quality is good enough for first drafts. Like for anything involving images, charts, or vision-heavy parsing, Gemini Pro. For quick one-off questions where I just need a fast answer, ChatGPT, mostly out of habit and because the iOS app is genuinely better designed than the alternatives. The meta lesson is that picking one model is a mistake. The teams shipping the best AI products in 2026 are routing different tasks to different models based on cost, latency, and quality requirements. So that's exactly what OMMA does internally. A classification task hits Haiku. A content generation task hits Sonnet. A complex orchestration decision hits Opus. Treating these models as interchangeable is leaving 50 to 70% of your performance on the table. Don't trust me. Don't trust any single review. Run your own evaluation, but do it the right way. Pick 3 real tasks from your actual work, not benchmark problems. Run each task through all 3 models. Score them on 4 things. Did the output work without modification? How many edits did you have to make? Did the model match your code base conventions? And critically, did the model lie to you about anything? That last metric, hallucination rate on your specific stack, is the one that actually predicts which model you'll be happiest with in 3 months. Tools matter too. If you're using Claude Code, Cursor, or Aider, the tooling around the model often matters more than the model itself. Test the full workflow, not just the raw API. What's your real world setup? Like, are you running one model for everything or routing tasks to different models? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone.